Hi BookTube, my name is Juan. I am just one reader. Today I have a different kind of video for you. Instead of making my usual Friday Reads video talking about the books that I finished, I'm currently reading and will be potentially reading next week, what I will do is just give you two sort of reviews. I don't think they are proper reviews, but just I will talk about the two books that I finished reading this week. And because I'm celebrating the fact that today is the first day in many months that I've been completely by myself in my house. So I have the house completely to myself. I will be singing. I haven't sung like properly with a music track here on BookTube in quite some time. So I think because the house is free now, I will seize the day and I will take my chance and see how my voice feels. So the two books that I will be sort of reviewing, but I don't consider this like a proper technical review. If you want a proper, concise, and really thoughtful review, these are definitely books that have been reviewed by many people and people who are much more serious in their approach to reviewing or talking about books on BookTube more than I do. I just want to tell you a little bit of my own subjective experience with these books, which I think counts as a review of sorts. But anyway, that's a big caveat. The two books that I will be talking about are Everything I Never Told You by Celeste Ng and The Idiot by Elif Batuman. So, firstly, let's do Everything I Never Told You. This was the debut novel of Celeste Ng, and I actually decided to pick this up because I saw the Amazon Prime Video adaptation of Little Fires Everywhere, which was her second novel. So I really liked that adaptation, even though it was completely melodramatic and preposterous and ridiculous, but it was sort of fun and quite interesting at the same time, so I really liked it in the end. So this novel, Everything I Never Told You, is about a family. They are living in Ohio in the 1970s. So it's a pretty interesting time period because they are a mixed race family. So that means that the father comes from a Chinese heritage, Chinese background, and the mother is just white American. And so that makes them a different kind of family, considering that this was the 70s and that was not common. It was actually frowned upon and very, very problematic. This also is sort of a mystery, or it has a mystery at its core, because you discover right at the beginning of the novel that their daughter is dead. And so the book is trying to do many different things at once. It sort of juggles many different things at once. It is a very interesting examination on this social, ethnical questions and the backgrounds of each character and how they come together and make up this family with a set of ideas and expectations because of their background. It's also sort of trying to uncover the mystery of what happened to their daughter Lydia, who died. And in the end, I think it's an interesting story with very, very important values and themes and ideas, but I actually didn't really like this book. It sounds like I did, because I think there are many things that she's exploring, the author is exploring very well, or I think the ideas are interesting to explore, and they should be discussed. But the actual execution of the book, I didn't like. I thought it was the writing felt very simplistic, extremely readable, and I think that's a good thing to say. But I felt the writing was sort of, I don't want to say mediocre, because that sounds like a very harsh word, but it definitely sounded incredibly simplistic with no real flavor to it, at least not for me. And I am a reader of writing style. Like that's the thing that I really enjoy most about reading, is savoring the style, the voice of the author. And I really didn't get anything particular or specific here. It was just a very simplistic writing style. I thought that the story was actually incredibly cheesy and pulling at your heartstrings and super, super predictable. It was just very, very predictable. You can obviously see where the story is going and why everything happened. That doesn't mean that it's a bad story. It just lacked a punch for me. So in the end, I gave this book 2 stars. Just not because I hated it. It was just sort of a very, very bitter disappointment. And the other book that I finished reading this week was The Idiot by Elif Batuman. This was a finalist for the Pulitzer Prize, and I really don't think it's an overstatement to say that this is the most conflicting novel that I have read in many years. I have not read a novel in recent years that has given me such ambivalent feelings, very strong feelings of fascination and of enjoyment, but at the same time, incredible frustration. This book follows the story of Selin, who is a Turkish girl. Well, she's an American girl, and but she comes from Turkish immigrant parents, and she's going to Harvard, and we just follow her around as she encounters teachers and classes, courses, knowledge, theories, theories about language and language acquisition, which are very interesting. I think it's probably the most interesting part of the book for me. We also follow her as she has interactions with friends, with a potential romantic relationship. We just follow her around. It's one of those meandering novels. Some people say that this is a kind of coming of age novel. I would actually say that this is actually an anti-coming of age novel because we really don't learn anything, and she doesn't learn anything. It's a very interesting novel. It's a fascinating novel in many ways. I think that a lot has been said already about this book, and I don't think I have anything new to bring to the table. But I would say that of all the reviews that I have seen of this novel, the one that I loved the most, or that I thought was the most clear and well put together, was the one by, I forget her name, but the name of her channel is, I think she's Jennifer. The name of her channel is Insert Literary Pun Here, and she made a review for this, and I completely agree with her, except to say that I didn't enjoy this book as much as she did, just because I didn't have a good time reading this book. I really enjoyed thinking about reading the book, and I really loved those experiences of discussion with myself about the book. But the actual act of reading the book, the experience of getting lost in this random stream of consciousness kind of writing, was just not enjoyable. Like, it was not fun. Sometimes I wanted to DNF the book because I was just not getting along with it. Oh, sense of humor is also a very important aspect of this book. It has a very particular deadpan, dry, sort of melancholy, slightly depressive sense of humor, which is nice. It's interesting, but it didn't particularly click with me. So that's a very subjective thing. I think every reader will have a different reaction to this book. In the end, I gave this book 3 stars, and I am so conflicted because on one hand, I really love many things about it, and the actual experience of reading this book, I think, mimics many of the themes that are explored within the book. Like, for example, how as humans we are wired to try to find meaning and try to find reason for things and try to connect with things and try to make sense of life. But you can't always. Mostly you can't. But it's the experience of trying to make sense and order out of chaos that counts. And that's a very interesting theme that is mirrored in the experience of reading the book itself. So I think that all of the criticisms that I can make against this book are actually positive things to say about this book at the same time. Do you know what I mean? So it's just one of those subjective experiences, but it's a very fascinating book, and I gave it 3 stars. So those are the books that I finished reading this week, and now I will try my best and hope not to die singing the song Meadowlark. So here we go. When I was a boy, I had a favorite story of the meadowlark who lived where the rivers wind. Her voice could match the angels in its glory, but she was blind. The lark was blind. An old king came and took her to his palace, where the walls were burnished bronze and golden braid, and he fed her fruit and the nuts from an ivory chalice, and he prayed, "Sing for me, my meadowlark, sing for me of this silver morning, set me free, my meadowlark, and I'll buy you a priceless jewel and a cloth of brocade and cruel, and I love you for life if you will sing for me." And then one day the lark sang by the water. The god of the sun heard her in his flight, and her singing moved him so he came and brought her the gift of sight. He gave her sight, and she opened her eyes to the shimmer and the splendor of this beautiful young god, so proud and strong. And he called to the lark in a voice both rough and tender, "Come along, fly with me, my meadowlark, fly with me on this silver morning, past the sea where the dolphins bark. We will dance on the coral beaches, make a feast of the plums and peaches, just as far as your vision reaches, fly with me." But the meadowlark said no, because the old king loved her so she couldn't bear to wound his pride. So when the sun god flew away, and then the king came down that day, he found his meadowlark had died. Every time I heard that part, I cried. And now I stand here starry-eyed and stormy. Oh, just when I thought my heart was finally numb, a beautiful young man appears before me, saying, "Come, oh, won't you come? And what can I do if finally for the first time the one I'm burning for returns the glow? If love has come at last, it's picked the worst time. Still I know I've got to go, fly away, meadowlark, fly away on this silver morning. If I stay, I'll grow to curse the dark. So it's off where the days won't bind me. I know I'll leave wounds behind me, but I won't let tomorrow find me back this way. Before my past once again can blind me, fly away. and we won't wait to say goodbye. My beautiful young man, and